Hello, welcome back to the Spider's Web, and in this video we're going to be painting our little pumpkin friend here. But first of all we need to give him a little bit of a sanding down, and we're going to be using a little emery board. This is one I pinched off Ali, so please don't tell her. And this is just to make the eyes a little bit smoother. And for there's a couple of these indents around the side that need doing a bit more, so we're using a triangular file for that. And we're just re-implementing those divots. Now we're using an airbrush today. The second time I've used my airbrush. The paints we're going to be using are Ferrari red, medium yellow and dark brown. And we're going to start off after applying a bit of the airbrush thinner. We're going to start off using the dark brown. Having a little trouble getting the airbrush going. Just tighten a couple of things up on that, which is why you had the bit of a jump. And I think we might be ready. Are we? Yes, we are. So we're going all over the pumpkin with this dark brown. Initially making sure that the recesses are covered. So that's why we're going all over, because we want some depth. I'm not going to be painting this with a wash at any time. It's just going to be painted with the airbrush straight off. I'm not quite sure what's happened here, why I had to stop, but I had to stop. So yeah, we're going over with the airbrush all over with the dark brown, but we're avoiding the eyes at the moment. That's one of the things I don't want to paint with this, because it could be a little difficult going over with the white afterwards, but we're avoiding the eyes. We are going to be painting those later, but we're making sure that everywhere else on this is covered in the brown, mainly because, as I said, we want some depth into the piece, so any indents will have this brown in there, so it already look like shadow. Now you may have noticed that I'm going straight into painting this, and that's mainly because I forgot to prime it. But thankfully the paint is going on and is not coming off. I've even rubbed it with my finger as I've been painting it, and it's not wiping off, so brilliant. I don't think we'll need to prime this plaster or this clay, but I don't know. So yes, all of this area gets going over with the brown. After we've finished with the brown, we're going to go over, we're going to add another colour, if I remember rightly, which will be black. I'll show you the colours as they come up on screen. As I'm going about to use them, I will show you the colours, especially when I've introduced new colour. Yes, the black is going in. I just want to make this brown a little darker. So this will be going into the airbrush and being used on the bottom of the pumpkin, just to darken it up a little, and the stem, just because I want a darker stem. So that's it. I'm emptying the brush now of most of the paint, but not all of it. I'm going to add some red to this, some of the Ferrari red. I'm now trying to build up the red into the orange, into a sort of like a darkish orangey yellow. Well, a dark yellow, should I say. Very pale orange, dark yellow. So I'm going over all of these areas, and I'm going sort of like 3/4 of the way down each segment, but I'm making sure the face is painted in this colour. So on the lips, the nose, under the eyes, we've painted this colour, as well as everywhere else. Well, that is around 3/4 of the way down the pumpkin. We don't want to fill it all, because we want the pumpkin to be dark on the bottom, because it's going to be sitting in on the ground, and we really don't want it to look nice and clean, do we? So we're going to pass all the red over this here, and and I'm not really too worried about going over and filling any of the dents in it, because we will be coming back to enhance those and pick them out again if they need to be later on with a brush. Because I'm not going to do the entire thing with the brush. I am going to be coming in later on with a normal brush, and we are going over the eyes a little there, but that's more overspray than a conscious decision. So now I'm going to start putting a little bit of the medium yellow into the brush. So we're going to make the red much paler and paler and paler. As I said, we're trying to make an orange colour. Now the first pumpkin I did, I added a little bit of an orange from the Hermie Painter orange, which isn't an airbrush colour, but I put some in anyway and it made a nice orange. But with this one, I chose not to. I wanted to make it look as though it was an older pumpkin, you know, that's beginning to age. You know, when fruit ages and fruit and vegetable ages start going brown, that's the effect I was looking for. I wasn't looking to make it a brand new shiny fresh pumpkin. So the expression on the face sort of like gives it that, oh dear, sort of like googly eyed, can't believe what's happening with the world kind of thing expression. But I'm not looking for a true to life pumpkin. I'm making it very cartoony. So I thought a darker colour would be nicer for this one, which is why I'm just going with the browns, the dark browns and the dark reds, going into the orange rather than going into white, going up to yellow. And I want to differentiate the two. I don't want them both exactly looking the same. So we're just going over with the same shade of red again, just to make it stand out that little bit more, because the more layers you put on a colour, the stronger it's going to be and more defined it's going to be. So, you know, if you want to make a colour defined, just keep going over it and going over it. You know, it's many thin watered down, you know, many thin diluted coats rather than one thick one. And with the airbrush you don't get the option to do a thick coat, because it just sends it out in a mist, as it were, rather than globbing a paintbrush up and slapping it on. So again, we're going to be adding a bit more yellow to the red. And it's a very, very translucent colour as well, so you're not going to see much of a difference, although at one point I do see a bit too much of a difference, a really big jump, and I don't like it. So I actually put it's not this coat, you'll know when it is because I stop part way through and go off camera, but yeah, I think it's the next coat where it's a big jump from this particular shade I'm putting on to a much brighter shade. It didn't look right to me. It might look okay on camera, but you know, when I was looking at it, it didn't look right. And that orange blot there at the side, you can see it's where I'm testing my shades on the white board that's underneath. Sometimes it looks right, other times it doesn't, because I've gone over another colour and it's sort of like disguised how bright it was. So, you know, with more yellow in this, it's taking it up to a little more of a fiery red, or very darkish orange, very deeply red orange, and we're adding more yellow in. And I think this is where I put too much yellow in it. I think it came out a bit too much. It is, yeah, I think so. I think I'll stop shortly after this and go and put some more red in it. But it's one of those things you learn by doing rather than learn by watching or reading about things. And as I said, this is only the second time I've used my airbrush, and it's the second time I've done any sculpting, and the first time was a pumpkin as well, which you saw at the beginning of the last episode, and you're going to see later on with this as well. Yeah, that's where I realised that I don't particularly like that shade, so I'm going to put another couple of drops of the red in and darken it up a little. There we are, that's better. That part there, too much yellow came out at one point and brightened it too much, but it does get disguised after a while with adding more yellow into the area. Anyway, as I was saying, this is the second time I've done use my airbrush. It's the second time I've done any sculpting, and it's the second time also that I've used my new microphone setup doing a voiceover for this. I think it might be easier doing it this way for when I'm using my airbrush, because the pump and the extraction spray booth are a little noisy. So this will be the way I'm do videos if I'm doing using my spray booth, my airbrush. I'm getting all tongue-tied now. So I've gone back and added a little more yellow into the mix, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be running backwards and forwards, putting more yellow into the mix and going around and brightening areas where I can see them, or where I can see it needs it. And the yellow is very translucent, so I do go over some of the previous red that I've put on it, and it doesn't show up terribly well. Now, is this the part where I add a little bit of white? No, it's not, because I do add a little bit of white at some point, and I think it might be after this one. As you may have noticed, I've gone over the eyes a little heavier with this, just to do a little coating on the clay, rather than it's acting like a primer kind of thing for the eyes, because I don't want it to look bright white. I want there to be a colour behind it which will be more normal, because your eyes aren't, the whites of your eyes aren't really white. They're sort of like a pinky colour which fades out to white, and that is usually that's on the blood vessels behind in the eye. You can see veins and whatnot. So another light going over with yellow. That's in the airbrush. It's predominantly yellow now, with just a touch of red, and you can see there it is quite translucent, the yellow. It's a very, very, very pale orange. Well, I wouldn't say very pale orange, but it is quite a pale orange, and I'm struggling to actually make it lighter with adding the yellow. So I think that the next part is when I add the white. Yes, it is. There's the white tube, white pot. So I'm adding a few drops of white. Not many. I'm not going mad. I just add 1 or 2 drops of white, and just taking this over to the highest points and doing a more coverage on the eyes, but we're just making sure that the on the high points of this gets a covering in the white, or the very pale orange which we're spraying at it, and we're not doing it sort of like a smooth finish. We're just doing little splashes here and there, just to give it that look of unevenness. So now we're going over to a brush. So I've got a little pot out, and into the pot I'm adding some of the airbrush cleaner, because I've forgot my water as well, so I thought I'd put some cleaner in. So we're putting a little bit of white in there, and now we're brushing over the eyeballs. We're going straight up to the pupil, or the slot for the pupil, and once we've done that, we will paint once we've done the whites of the eye, we will paint the pupil. So it's a complete white coverage all over the eye, and because it's an airbrush paint, I'm not thinning it down, I'm just putting it neat with the brush. And as you can see, every now and again while I'm using the brush, I will sort of like wipe the paint off. And I've just noticed as well, as you can see, I noticed that there was a white splodge on the back of the pumpkin, but we'll fix that later. Here I'm adding black to the palette of the bits of the tub, and that's the iris. And now we're cleaning that black off, and what are we doing next? The brown earth, and we're adding a little bit of the black, not the brown earth, it's a little bit of the black into the brown, and this is where we start reinforcing the crevices. So you'll see me place it on, and if I get any of it on the surface of the pumpkin, I'll wipe it off with my finger, and as you can see, the paint is not coming off, so it's not really needed a primer. And it's, I'm really impressed with the way the paint has gone on. Now this is only a cheap airbrush that I've used. I only got it me for Christmas. Not for Christmas, for my birthday. And I'm not complaining about it at all. I really do like it, even though it's only second time of using it. And once I get used to using the airbrush properly, it's going to become quite a valued tool in my painting arsenal. But I'm just saying that it is only a cheap airbrush, so it's nothing, not one of these really good quality, very expensive ones. I wouldn't trust myself with one of those for learning with, to be honest. I would sooner get something that's a little more reasonably priced, shall we say. But I must admit I am enjoying using this brush. So we're continuing round to pick out all the recesses. I've gone round the eyeball with it, and I'm going now round the round the lips and the teeth. The teeth are going to be painted a different colour as time goes on. But as I said, this is the time when we just spend however long it takes, really, to pick out all the recesses to make them look a little darker. As you can see now, it's looking like an aged pumpkin. It's not looking super bright, and that's the effect I was looking for with this one. At the end of the video, you're going to see what I've done with these pumpkins and how I've set them out, but for now we're concentrating on just painting them. So every time I go into the paint and use the paint, I will wash it off with the cleaner, airbrush cleaner, and in order to hide the white splodge of paint, I've got a little technique that I'm going to be using, and it's medium grain gel. So we'll put a dollop of that into the tub, and that was my phone rattling. I'll put a dollop of that into the tub, and into the gel we will mix some dark earth paint, again from Vallejo, and we'll just mix it up, as you can see there. Add a little bit of the dark brown and splatter it as though it's been rolling around in the mud. Make it look a little dirtier, as though it's either been rolling around itself or been kicked or knocked, and it's just been splashed a little with mud. There we go. So that will harden now and give a nice texture. Now we're going into the Ferrari red and mixing some of that dark brown into it, and we're doing the pupil, sorry, the iris. Keep getting those two mixed up. As you can see, I'm not doing a very neat job with this. I just want to get the colour around the pupil. This is just the base colour. We're going to be adding a bit more highlight to this as time goes on. Now we've got a little bit of the what you call it, the dark earth, and we're painting the teeth with the dark earth for the moment. As you can see there as well, you can see the gap there where one of the teeth has broken off. That happened right at the beginning of the video. I don't know whether you saw that. But never mind. A bit more red, and we'll just go over the eye again with the red. Just try and make it that little bit brighter. It doesn't make it too bright, but there we are. Clean the brush off, and spots of yellow in the palette. I will mix some of that yellow in with the dark earth, a little bit of white into the, and I was going to say a little bit of white into that, but we decided to use what was there, and this is going over the teeth, as you can see. So you can see there one of the teeth is missing, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a mark on top of the stump of the tooth, just to show that there is one there, as you can see. I will mix a bit of yellow with the red for a bit of orange, and again go around the pupil. Just trying to lighten it enough for the difference to be seen. Now we're just going to touch up a few areas as well with the brush, just to brighten them up a little. So some areas will need touching up when you're using an airbrush. And we're going into dark brown again and reinforcing some of the dips and crevices in the surface of the pumpkin. There we are, we're nearly done. So I have really enjoyed making this little beggar. Just add a little bit of the pale colour we use for the teeth on the top of the spout to show that it's broken off from something, and there we are. So what do I do with this? Well, we'll find out in a second. I have a little wooden tray and I've sprayed it black. I see a small tray and I want to paint it black, yes. I don't know what I used it for beforehand, but there is a bit of glue dried on it. I think it may have been something to do with Minstrel's Cage when we first got Minstrel, but we don't have Minstrel anymore. But it's basically a little tray, and I really cannot remember where we got this from. I didn't make it, it was bought and I don't know what it was from, so one of those things. But we're going to take some Mod Podge and cover the entire base of this with the Mod Podge. I don't know why I showed it twice, because I showed it once already, but there we are. So we'll get a brush and just slap it on. We're not fussed about getting this neat and tidy, we just want the entire base covered. And we're doing this, you're seeing this in real time. I've not sped this up because there's not really much of it to show, so it's a waste of time speeding it up. We're just making sure that, let's say, all the base is covered. And then, you know, the stuff that you get for when you're giving a gift, like a bottle of wine or something, it's in one of the gift bags, and you get the brown shredded paper, you know, long strips of paper. Well, what we do now is we get some of that paper. Eventually, where are we? Oh yes, here we are. There we are. So we get some of that, and we're going to try and make a little nest in the base of this tray. And we do that simply by banging it in and pressing it down. So we make sure that it's all pressed into the base, and once we're happy with it, then we can do the next step. I'm not really too bothered about any of them overhanging too much, but I don't want any of the very longer strands hanging over too much. But the next step is very easy. We add our pumpkins. We have our own little pumpkin patch now. So there we are. That's how I've set it up, and I'm going to show you a photograph of it at the end of this. But that's all for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, as always, take care, God bless, and bye for now.